Good evening. My name is Danny Colligan. I'm a graduate student at Stanford, and I'm a member of Students Confronting Apartheid in Israel, or SCI. First of all, I would like to thank everybody for coming to this event. We are excited to host Adam Shapiro as our guest speaker tonight. The format of tonight, just to give everybody an overview, will be as follows. Adam will give a presentation about his work, and then we'll all moderate a question and answer session with Adam. So Adam Shapiro is a documentary filmmaker, human rights activist, and Palestinian rights activist. Adam is currently on the board of directors of the Free Gaza movement, launching nonviolent efforts to challenge the siege and blockade on Palestinians in Gaza. His latest film is a documentary series on Palestinian refugees all over the world called Chronicles of a Refugee. And he is currently producing a film on Syrian displaced peoples from the Golan. Adam and a colleague have worked in an independent effort to help find durable solutions for the Palestinian refugees of Iraq and resettled refugees to Chile, Brazil, Norway, Spain, and Sweden. Iceland and the United States are also known. He served as a country director in Afghanistan for the International Human Rights Organization, Global Rights. Adam holds an MA in politics from New York University and an MA in Arab Studies from Georgetown University. And he is a founding member of Encounter Productions, which produced the award-winning documentary film about Baghdad in spring 2004. He also directed and produced Darfur Diaries, Message from Home in 2005, and Becoming Nadia in 2007. His films have screened at film festivals all over the world and have been broadcast on television in the Middle East, Europe, and the United States. In February 2009, Adam joined a National Lawyers Guild delegation to the Gaza Strip to document war crimes and collect evidence. Adam is co-author of the book Darfur Diaries, Stories of Survival. In Palestine, Adam was a co-founder of the International Solidarity Movement and lived and worked in the occupied Palestinian territories for 3 years. He serves on the advisory board of Kindred USA and was named an honorary veteran for peace in 2002. Please join me in welcoming Adam Shapiro.
Thank you. Okay. Can you all hear me? Yeah, that's good. All right, I'm going to try to do this. I like not having to stand behind a podium, so if at any point my voice trails off, just kind of, raise your hand in the back and let me know that you can't hear me. I'll try to speak up. For a while, I was a teaching assistant at a university, at American University in Washington, and my professor, who I worked for, was kind of old. He just turned 80, actually, today. And he kind of relied on us as teaching assistants to actually teach. So I got used to speaking out loud and addressing an auditorium. So hopefully my voice will be fine tonight. I want to thank Sky and Danny for having me come. I know school hasn't started yet. I don't know what you're all doing here.
Grad students.
Grad students. I was a grad student too. I didn't show up early. But no, I appreciate you coming out and for those of you from the community for coming to Stanford and for the lecture tonight. As you heard, I've done a lot on Palestinian issues, a whole wide variety of them, and now I'm working on the issue of Gaza and what is the situation confronting Palestinians in Gaza. And what I really think is the situation confronting all of us around the world in terms of if we really want to have peace in the region, if we really want to have an end to this conflict, then it's incumbent upon, I think, on all of us who are interested in dealing with the situation facing Palestinians in Gaza. It's not sufficient to kind of step back and say, there's nothing we can do. This has been actually the motivation for the Free Gaza movement, is to say that enough is enough. We as civilians around the world, we can do something. And we're going to actually escalate our efforts to the level that we have to prove that we can do something and to force countries around the world to take action. And I'll get to that and how that works in a few minutes. The idea for the Free Gaza movement started back in 2006, 2007, before I was even involved. The idea was basically that with the siege on Gaza and what later became a full-blown, it was a blockade, but a more extensive blockade on the Gaza Strip, that this somehow needed to be challenged through international civilian action, nonviolent action to challenge the Israeli military and the Israeli occupation of Gaza. A little bit of background, of course, we could choose any point really in the last 40 to 60 years to choose as a starting point for background, but I think it's important to note about Gaza the kind of specificity that Gaza presents with regard to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that is a little bit different than the West Bank, that is different than Jerusalem. Some similarities, of course, but there are certain factors about Gaza that make it a bit unique that I think is important to take into account in order to understand the kind of situation that people face today and the historical context that this falls into. 1948, of course, the establishment of the State of Israel means for the Palestinians, for the most part, dispossession and becoming refugees. And in Gaza, what this meant was a territory that was more or less sparsely populated before 1948. There was a population in Gaza for sure, a population that actually had a vibrant trading economy, a vibrant sort of upper and sort of upper middle class, as well as kind of a working class, all of a sudden became inundated with refugees. Today, the numbers after 1948, essentially 80% of Gaza are people who were made refugees in 1948 and their descendants. And not only that, but a lot of the people who had the means after 1948, and especially after 1967, who were Palestinians in Gaza, many of them left and didn't return. So you end up with a population in Gaza that is overwhelmingly dependent on international aid. Of course, the UN sets up the UN Refugees Works and Agency for Palestine Refugees in 1949. Most Palestinians in Gaza are registered and dependent on this agency in one form or another for aid and assistance, as well as other forms of aid. From 48 to 67, Gaza is occupied by Egypt. It is not occupied at that time by Israel. It is occupied by Egypt. And Egypt intentionally keeps Gaza dependent. It keeps Gaza very poor. It does this through a number of means, including manipulation of currency, including not allowing permission for new construction in Gaza, various means. Gaza remains, and so by 1967, Gaza really is an extremely poor place. After the 1967 war, in which Israel took over the occupation of Gaza, the situation actually did improve economically. The situation economically from 1948 to 67 is worse than the economic situation from 67 to, let's say, 1987, the beginning of the Palestinian Intifada in 1987. That said, it's only marginally better. And Palestinians are wholly dependent on Israel at this point for economic life in Gaza Strip. Most Palestinians who have any kind of real income in Gaza at this time are working either in Israel or building settlements, building Israeli settlements in the occupied territories, including in Gaza as well as in the West Bank. After 1987, the Intifada begins. More severe repression occurs against all Palestinians, not just in Gaza and the West Bank, as well as people take to the streets and, there's this uprising. There is greater repression of the uprising in Gaza, in part because of the logistics. It's a concentrated place. Gaza is a very small territory. Some people say it has the largest, population per square kilometer in the world, meaning it's the most densely populated place. I think that's a bit disputed as to what is really the most densely populated place, but there are parts of Gaza, certainly the area around the Jabalia refugee camp, that certainly compete with anywhere else on earth in terms of population density. In addition, Israel is, of course, expanding its number of settlers in Gaza and the number of settlements in Gaza. And these settlements are designed to split up the Gaza Strip, to keep Palestinians separated from each other, to break up the strip so that the Israeli military can control population in the Gaza Strip very easily. After 1993, Oslo Accords, of course, Gaza, Jericho first. That was the sort of logic or the kind of algorithm that was created in order to turn over control to the Palestinian Authority. So Palestinian Authority moves into Gaza, however, settlements continue. The Israeli military maintains a presence in the Gaza Strip in some form or another until 2005, when all the settlements are removed from Gaza.